welcome to Water Tech with Todd. I'm your host, Todd Schneider, and in today's episode, we are going to be removing this existing water fountain and replacing it, and also adding a new Oasis bottle filler. Now, I will tell you, it's not always necessary to always remove this. You can add the bottle fillers to the existing units, but because we've had so many problems with this due to the age, we've had a lot of issues with it leaking, we've just decided to go ahead and replace it completely. And hopefully this video will help you out with a little bit of instructions on how to get that done. So let's get into the removal of this. Now, the most important thing when working with a drinking fountain is you gotta have to disconnect that power. Either go to the breaker, find out where this unit is plugged into. When you're working with water and metal and electric, they just don't combine. So be safe, make sure you get the electric turned off. Now on this unit here, it's pretty easy. The electric is actually right below it, so I'll be able to unplug that. So the second thing we're going to do is we're going to have to remove this cover. This cover is going to give us pure access to the waste and the water, where we're going to have to shut this down, disconnect the waste, so we're able to remove this. All right, now that the cover's been removed, you'll be able to get to your waste line, and then most importantly, your water shut off. So to remove this trap, we'll be loosening up these two nuts here. Now there will normally be a little bit of water in these traps, so you can have a bucket below to catch that. Once your trap's removed, it should give you good access to that shut off. Turn it all the way to the right to make sure everything's shut down, and then we'll be disconnecting our 3/8 supply line here. Once everything's been removed, we'll be able to pull this unit up. Ready to remove this fixture here is we're going to have to grab down low and then lift straight up and remove it from the wall. Okay, so now we've got everything exposed. We're going to want to remove this bracket. This bracket's what's actually holding the unit up on the wall. Now, these are not universal, so if you're using Oasis, make sure that you're grabbing the correct hanger. So we'll get going. We'll remove this one, get our new hanger put up, and then get our new unit hung on the wall. All right, now that we've got everything hung, we need to gain access to that waste and that water. The way to do that is we're going to have 2 screws up top and then 2 screws on the bottom, and this cover will pull directly off for you. Now that we have access to this, the first thing I want to do is I want to get this power cord out of the unit. Now there's a couple knockouts down here, so I've already knocked out a hole for my line here. We'll pull my power cord down through, and we'll plug that in right at the end. The other thing we're going to have is we're going to have here our 1/4-inch feed line, which goes right into our 3/8. Now what you got to watch here is when you pull this cap off, you're going to notice there's already an inline filter there. We want to keep that inside there. And remember, we have to use a 3/8 compression nut. And don't be soldering this tight. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to take our nut and our ferrule. We'll slide that on. We'll get that back in there. Make sure that you don't kink that 1/4-inch line. And then we'll get that tightened up all the way. After we get our water line all tightened up, we're going to want to install our waste line. Okay, so now that I've got my water hooked up and I've got the waste all hooked up, if we're using this as a standard drinking fountain, we're ready to put the cover back on and then start using this. But in today's episode, we're going to be adding a bottle filler to the top of this. To make it a little bit easier on myself, I'm actually going to remove this trap because I need to gain access to my water lines underneath here, and by removing this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my trap here. And again, we'll get into why we're doing that a little bit later in the video, but it makes it a little easier if this trap is removed. Okay, so because we are now adding a bottle filler, we've got to be able to get our water up through this hole here to get into the bottle filler unit. And the way we're going to do that is we have 3 screws on the left, 3 screws on the right, and then this is going to pop off. Now I already took out a few screws just to make it a little bit quicker. once you pop these screws out, you're going to now lift this cover right up off of there. Now, remember, you're still going to have a water line connected to your bubbler. So what we're going to do is we're going to push that swedge lock in, disconnect it, and our top will come off. Now, here's our waistline. That's why I took that trap off, make it a little bit easier than trying to take this drain body. If you decide to take the drain out completely, we do have a screw in the center. We can disconnect it, and the trap will stay completely intact. All right, now that we got the top exposed, what we need to do is we need to cut in the T into this line. You don't want to do it before the tank because that way you're not going to get extremely cold water. So what you're going to do is you want to find it where it leaves the cooler tank itself and before it hooks into the solenoid valve. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull this swedge lock apart here, remove this insulation. And what we're going to want to do is we want to make sure that we're getting a nice square cut on this one. If it's cut on an angle, we may have some issues getting that swedge lock to seal back in. What we'll do is we'll put our insulation back on the line, add our T into the line, pop it again. Now we've got a T where we can take our line and then we'll run that up into the cooler itself. So now we got our T cut in the line, we'll be able to put our top right back on it and then get our water line coming up through the into the bottle filler unit itself. Okay, I got my top on. I've got my water line coming up through. Next thing we're going to need is we're going to have this gasket. And what we're going to do is we're going to slide this gasket on and just kind of set it in place. We want it nice and center here. And our next piece that we're going to have is going to be our bracket. This bracket is what's going to hold the water cooler up to the wall. So we're going to want to make sure we get our water line up through there. Get that set in place. And then we're going to want to screw this back to the wall. Hollow wall, make sure you use some anchors. If you're hitting some studs, then make sure you can bolt it straight back in there. All right, now that we've got our mounting bracket set and our gasket in there, on this Oasis unit, we've decided to go with the filtered water. So it comes with this really nice housing. We've installed the 2 screws that are provided. That's going to just slide in, push in, and lock that down. That's going to hold that housing. What also is really nice is we have nice quarter turn filters. So we're able to pop that up and then do a nice quarter turn, and our filter's set. Now, in order to hook this up, what we're going to want to do is we actually are provided with 2 straight 90s because it's a little bit tight in there. So I'll pull this up here, and I'm going to get my insulation slid all the way down. All right, now we're ready to actually put our bottle filler on. First thing you want to make sure to do is take our electric cord, and then we're going to shove it down through the same hole that our water line's coming up through. All right, I got my electric down through there. Now I'm going to want to take my water and get it into my solenoid. Now on this unit, you're going to notice I have a little bit extra slack, and we'll get into why we're leaving some extra slack there here in one moment. Now we got our bottle fill installed. We left a little extra slack on that water line, and the reason we're doing that is each unit is going to come with this string here. We're going to insert it up through the hole. pull it up through, wrap it around each one here, and then lock that down. The reason we're doing that is that now gives us the ability to open up this unit and be able to work on anything internal or go through and change our filters very quickly without having to take the bottom covers off and everything out. Okay, so we've got all the water hooked up, all the waste hooked up. I was able to put the cover back on. The only thing I would suggest is after you get everything hooked up, I would run about 1 to 2 gallons through this, get all the air out of the system, clean any small debris that may be just sitting in the lines. Last thing you can do. And you got a whole thing of water. So I appreciate your time, appreciate you watching. Hopefully this video helps out on your next installation.